Hi, it's Rachel. I want to talk about how through divine love is how we find our oneness with our Heavenly Father. It is how we become partakers of divinity, of the divine nature, and thus gain our immortality. So we never are God. Okay, God is always so far beyond our soul. Yet being connected to his soul transforms our soul into a substance that's of divinity, thus of immortality. And I've been learning a lot about a divine love, which is a perfect, a pure love. It's the love that comes from the Heavenly Father, that's the source, versus a more natural or human love, which actually generates from us. So we're the source, even though we were created by God, right, with the natural love. He created us with that. And thank goodness, because that's what keeps as much harmony as there is in this world, although there is very little. But that's what keeps it, is this natural love that we have. But it is something that comes from our own soul. And we can perfect it and grow in it and all these things, but it's always limited to our own soul, where this divine love, the love of the Father, is what our soul can obtain when we're connected to his soul. So we have the potential, the ability to receive that divine love, but we don't naturally have it. Because to have a connection in love to the Heavenly Father, we have to be extending our self love to him, and as he extends his love to us. So his love is always outstretched to us, because that's what divine love does. We have to desire and long to truly love him. And that means wanting to be a part of that divine love, to be a part of his spiritual truths that enable that divine love. Spiritual truths, absolute truths, and divine love are of the same substance. It's just looking at it from different angles. The truth serves the love, and that love is what flows through those truths. And so so we have to long and desire to come into harmony with all that that entails. Okay, but when we do, so we're stretching and our love out to him, because love is always voluntary. That's why we have a free will, so that we can love. Because true love, real love, it's not out of obligation, it's not forced, it's not automatic. It's a choice. That's why even in the natural love you have such a continuum, where some people seem to have it not developed much at all, yet they have the ability to have that natural love. And other people can be very rich in their natural love. And but it has a limit to it. It has a ceiling to it, because it's limited to your own particular soul and the perception of your soul. And I'll get to that in a minute. But this divine love is something that is from the very soul of God. And as we start to move into that love and want to be partakers of it, because we're extending and desiring it, then that's where we start finding a reception of it. Because divine love always wants to love, it always wants to give its love. That's what divine love is. But we have to desire it, and thus be in harmony and connection with it. And that's what we do. So divine love comes through prayer, desire, longing, asking. And it wants to give you the love. And that's the thing, when you really desire that divine love, when you really desire to know that pure, perfect love, to be a part of that love, you'll start to receive it into your soul. So divine love is actually made up of a certain energy. It has an energy to it. So, when you're really stressed or fearful or anxious, you can literally feel it in your body. A lot of times in your chest, you get a shortness of breath. You physically may have sweaty palms. That's an energy that's being created out of that fear and stress and anxiety. Okay? Love also creates an energy in you, just as real, but it's harmonious and healing, and it's all the things that you deeply desire to feel, okay, and experience, but it's real. That's experiencing, it's like that energy of it that you're feeling. So when we start reaching out to God in all sincerity and truth, so that means we want to know what truly divine perfect love is from the true creator, the true heavenly Father. So it's wanting to know him in all truth as he is, and it's desiring to know the truth, the absolute truth, and not being content in relative truth, which is our own perceptions, okay, but it's wanting to learn and be a part of what is truly real. And there's nothing more real than the very essence of God. Okay, because in that absolute truth and in that absolute love, there are no lies. There is no manipulation, there is no darkness, there is no deception. Okay, and those are so many things that we know and that we're a part of. But that's the thing, is you start coming into contact and accepting that divine love into your life and how it works and the laws and spiritual laws that come along with it, that it just starts to change you, because that it's something very real in your soul, that very real energy that is literally changing you from the inside out. And it's a growing awareness and learning about these spiritual laws. So as it's changing you, you're learning what it entails, how it's all consuming nature, how it loves all of creation, how there is no end, how it never fails, how it's boundless and limitless, how it always is outstretched, how it's always been there for you because love always is, how there's no separation in love. And the reason that we feel separation initially is perceived separation. Okay, it's not real separation, because it's like that love is always right here. We just have to become aware of it and desire it and ask for it and stretch our soul out to it to say we want to be a part of that. We want to learn it. And when you do that, you experience it little by little, because it's a very real transformation that it creates in you. And so it's transforming every part of you, okay, from your soul outwards. So your thoughts, it changes your thoughts and your desires and your perceptions. And so it has to be a gradual process. It's not instant, okay, it's not immediate, because literally all the systems of your being change to be in accordance with it. So it's a very real transformation that you're going through, okay, from the inside out. So this divine love that's the source. So we don't self-generate it like a natural love. It is something that is always from God. And one of the main things that you realize too, as you grow in this divine love, is that it changes your perceptions. Okay, so I've mentioned this before about how our perceptions, okay, how I perceive my reality is different from how everybody else perceives it, because my perception is coming out of this one moment, is coming out of all my experiences, everything that I know, everything that I don't know. It is coming out of my expectations of the future. It's coming out of all of that. So all of that is influencing my perception as well as what I'm actually seeing. But what I actually see is being interpreted by all my memories and all my expectations to what is really occurring in this present moment. That's why everybody sees things a little bit differently. So you can see in a natural love that you are bound by your own perception, which you can see is very limited. So you have no idea the perceptions of others, although you can kind of grow and learn about people and how people function and work, but everybody is so individual. Everybody's going to be so different. So you can never fully know that. And because of that, you can never love perfectly. You can only love to the extent that you are able to perceive, because when you're loving someone, your actions are coming out in a certain wisdom, in a certain act that carries a certain wisdom or knowledge or intellect to it. Okay, so that truth is wrapped up in it too. So you are bound by all of those things. But when you're connected to the source of divine love, then what that love does in its reshaping of you is it reshapes your memories. It reframes them. Okay, it like cleanses them, washes them, renews them, which is a very freeing process to go through. And it sets you free from your expectations about the future, because you really trust the future moments into the perfect outplaying of how that divine love wants to move in your life. Okay, so your perceptions change so that in that dynamic, so now when you're viewing this perspective, I'm connected to the all-knowing source, so all that I am perceiving is being influenced by that divine love, which is holding divine truth, which is perfect intellect, so that my perception can actually be not an all-knowing perception, because we're not God, but one that I can see what I need to see to love as God desires to love through me in that situation, in that moment. It's extremely powerful, and you can see how you can never do that on your own, ever. I don't know how much love that you may have or feel, because that's what happens in that divine love. You start feeling and wanting to love everyone, all part of creation, absolutely perfectly. That's what that love, that's the desire that you have when you have that love and when it's growing in you. You can't do that unless you're all-knowing. And you'll never be all-knowing, because we're the creation, we're not God. But when you're connected to God and you find a oneness with Him, then that, what you need for that moment can flow through you. Because it's like your soul and God's soul is finding this unity because of that love that you've extended to one another. And that harmony that you have found with one another. And now, when you love, you're loving with not just your own soul, but also that part soul of God, which is the divine love of God. So this divine love of God is just absolutely amazing. And so it's nothing that we can gain by effort. Okay? It's something that we come into by spending that time in prayer and seeking for it, asking for it. And it's not that divine love is in any way being withheld from us, but you can't help but ask for it when you start to get a little bit of it, but you want it, it's just a growing awareness. In the asking and the desire, you actually just grow in the awareness of what it is as it grows within you. It's like you're being filled. You're being filled with that love. And as I said, it's a transformation because everything has to come in line with it. But as it does, it's almost your capabilities to love just keep expanding and growing, because it's like your soul and spirit is widening for that love to be able to flow through you. So it's a very different experience in not only how it's obtained. So it's not like a self-generated love that I can learn as in a natural love where I don't really need to engage God much at all, right? Someone can grow in a natural love and be very loving, but it's very limited, and you see the limits of that. Okay, versus this divine love is something that comes from God Himself, and it can only be yours when you have a oneness that you have for eternity. And that's what you gain, and that's the immortality of it. So immortality is being a part of divinity. It's just not your soul living forever, it's your soul being a part of the very soul of God through that divine love connection, and by being a part, and that divine love flowing through you. And so that's an inseparable bond, because that's what love does. When love gains that bond, it never separates. It only grows and expands. That's why you become immortal, because nothing can separate you from that. So here's the thing, is that that's because we're now in harmony in our soul with that. We find that inseparable bond. That's the immortality. But in our natural state, that love is always there, and it always will be reaching out to us. Always. In the moment that we start coming toward it, it's right there, because it's patient. And it never fails. And it doesn't change. It's immutable. It's perfect. It's constant. We're the ones that change. So that's something that you learn and come to awareness in this, is that this divine love consists of all those spiritual laws of God that creates a beautiful harmony in creation. And so it's what it is. So we have to come into harmony with that love. But that's what that divine love does in you. That energy, that awareness, it starts changing you. It changes your desires and your thoughts and your perceptions, so that it starts creating, so that everything starts coming in harmony in your life with the spiritual laws of God. And those spiritual laws create harmony in your life. And this divine love, that energy, there is nothing more powerful than the energy of this divine love. It's the highest. It's like, consider energy like a vibration. It's a vibration that dominates and consumes, and it will every other vibration. But it's a vibration, because it's love, that has to be desired. So it will wait in that state until you desire it, because love is always voluntary. And then you start finding that, and it starts working in your soul, and it starts dominating every other energy. And the other one that is the next powerful one is fear. Because divine love is of God, that energy has a life of its own. That's why it grows. You have a little bit, and it just grows and it expands, and that's why it can take over, okay? Fear, even though it's based on a lie, because it's based on lack. So when I mention fear, I'm speaking of lack, okay? Any perception of lack at all right? Because that's what you have when you don't have that connection and awareness, understanding of divine love. Because that's one of the truths that you learn, is that in that divine love you have no lack. And when you start finding harmony with it, you experience no lack. But fear is the perception of the separation from divine love, ultimately, and that creates a sense of lack, whether it comes out in depression or anger or judgment or self-condemnation, whatever it may be. It's fear, it's lack, but that fear is also contagious. It has this ability to self-perpetuate itself, because you think of a fear comes in, you believe it, then you act on it, then it creates certain negative results, because that's what acting in fear does, and then that accelerates the fear. So then the fear becomes real to you. It becomes a truth to you. That's how it has this kind of self-propelling nature to it. But that's why this divine love, this perfect love, is the only energy and the energy that drives out that fear, because it's more powerful, because it's real. Okay, it's based on truth, absolute truth. And so as it starts to change you inside, that's what you start to realize, is that it is more powerful, because it just starts pushing out those fears, because you start learning the truth of it, like that love never fails. You learn that love, because it's coming from God, actually creates harmony in your life, because you're having harmony with the source of life, God, and with his spiritual laws. So that's creating a certain harmony in your reality. And that is... And so in that harmony that you see creating, it starts pushing out the fear, because you stop fearing, because you know harmony is going to be growing more and more in your life. So that's what divine love is so powerful, because it's the love, but it's also the understanding and the truths that that love brings to your soul that you start to become aware of, and it just pushes out all the fear until eventually, as you get more and more of that divine love, you don't have any more fear. And that is also what gives you a peace that surpasses all understanding, because no matter what's happening in other people's realities, when you are having that soul connection to God, and in that divine love is growing in you, you can see the growing harmony in your life, and it creates this harmony within your reality, even though there's disharmony in other realities. And so you start seeing the power of that, and that gives you a tremendous amount of very real peace that's coming from something beyond this physical realm, because it's coming from that very soul of God. So these differences in this natural love that is very limited, that is born out of, our natural relationships and wanting to experience a care and a connection in them, versus this divine love that only comes from the soul of God, and it comes not by effort but by receiving that, becoming aware of it, accepting His love and how it works and what it does and the nature of it, and allowing that to work in your life and trusting that to work in your life. And that's where the faith comes in. So it's the prayer and faith dynamic working together, because the faith is that you're trusting in that love to create that harmony, to create that peace, that is working out everything perfectly, that it's working in your situations to develop your soul. So no matter how much you have, and no matter where you are in that progression, it is very trustworthy. And that's what you discover, and that's what you start to do. And when you start to have that level of trust, that also creates an amazing peace. So this divine love is something that is absolutely desirable, that has no end, that creates that immortality that we so long for and desire, because that means we have a oneness with God.